Okay. Let's see. So, I guess I just wanted to start with if there was anything that is really pressing right now that you'd like to talk about, maybe stuff that happened in the last week or something that's just come up.
No, I can't really think of anything in particular.
Okay. Sure. Let's see. So, why don't we just go back into some other stuff from last time? Oh, yes. One of the things I did want to touch on a little bit is I know last session we talked about maybe some of the more physical things that have been coming up, like health-wise, that you think may have either come out of some of the issues that we've been talking about or have just kind of been happening. And I think a couple of the things that you were mentioning before was like maybe some problems some problems sleeping when some of these issues with your partner is kind of coming up. Is that something that's still kind of continuing? Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like sleep has been a big thing. I don't know, I also kind of feel like afterwards I was thinking about it. I feel like when I don't get like, or I don't have like a certain level of like that care and emotion in my life, I think it does generally mainly affect my sleep. Like I don't sleep as well, and when I do sleep, like I don't feel like I still feel tired. I still feel tired.
During the day.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
No, I hate it.
All the time. Yeah. And then I think you also mentioned it was maybe even interfering with just like your eating schedule too.
I mean, I feel like it. I don't know. I feel like when I get really stressed out, I probably eat less healthy, but also often eat less as well.
Okay.
It's just like this weird,
Sure.
like I just kind of end up like all over the place. My brain just kind of just grab what you can, eat what you can, and like go. Like there's a lot less motivation to like cook and make something that's actually like decent.
Right, and so you have to go out then and to do that, and but it is you are finding that you're having to eat a little less, not really having time as much for.
Yeah, I'm just not motivated to eat on either. So, or like sit down and eat at least when I'm at home. Like if I'm out and running around and stuff like that, like at my job or something like that, like if we have like extra food or something like that, I might like grab like half a muffin or something like that, and like, just so I can like keep working without like literally passing out.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, so now you're getting this. It sounds like there might be this kind of this double whammy here of I'm super exhausted during the day because I'm not sleeping as much, and I'm not getting as much energy because I'm not eating as much too. What is that kind of like in your daily life? What is that just kind of like? What does that just feel like in the moment?
The thing is, it doesn't feel like a lot of anything. I just kind of like, you know, I'm just kind of just like a little bit of like more like numb in my thought processes, I guess. Like I'm not as sharp or as fast at processing or just like kind of just like in like the front. I'm just like okay, and like I can do stuff, but it usually takes me a little bit longer, or I'm just like repeat that. Like what did you just say? I'm having to do stuff like repeatedly to be able to like get the same reaction like mentally.
Yeah, there's like a numbness. You said I'm curious because I know last session we talked about there was kind of an argument that you had gotten in with your boyfriend and also you had talked about there were just sort of some like these feelings of like callousness towards him too. I'm wondering if you think some of that like that numbness from just not having that energy is kind of is feeding into that reaction towards him.
I mean, at least in the past, like when I've been like feeling like that exhausted and everything, like unless it was just like I don't even know, like I feel like it actually makes me react less usually because I just don't have the energy to like do or say anything in response to anything that they say or do. I'm just like, fuck it, whatever, like, and just move on.
Sure. Yeah, and I know last time I think we talked about how there was maybe some of that like internal resentment towards yourself in reaction to that sort of like that callousness that you were kind of sending back to him. So I'm wondering if how that makes you feel, thinking that it might be more of a physiological, like I'm not getting the energy I need to really like give him the feedback that I would normally.
Well, it's not really like a lack of communicating, because I communicate, I just don't communicate in that way, like in a harsh way, I guess. Like it's kind of, I've just kind of been more like, just because of the way I grew up, like more a sit down and talk about it kind of person, as opposed to, I don't know, like just like overreacting in the moment or something like that, or yelling or screaming or anything. We're just kind of like, we're gonna talk about this. This is how I feel. Either like, what can you do about it, or like, how does that make you feel, or what, or like, if I feel like something else is wrong with the other person, they're not talking about that shit with him. I'm like, what's going on?
Right. And you don't find yourself doing this with him.
No, I mean, I do to some extent. I just don't feel like he gives me like this, like he internalizes it as much.
Right.
And I'm not sure if it's like a thing of like he can't, like again, like I don't know if it's a thing of like he can't really like wrap his head around it, almost like in a way that like I need to respond emotionally to them being emotional, or if it's a thing of like he's genuinely like consciously doesn't really care.
Right. Do you find that people are normally, you say that this is kind of a way that you personally handle things with conflict most of the time. Do you find that people generally respond well to that?
I mean, in most cases, yeah. Like they either respond well to it or they don't like take criticism super well, one or the other. And then if it's like a continued thing of like they don't, like normally like I'm a little bit more certain about how people if they're like listening and they're reacting but they're not caring about it, versus like not really being able to. He's kind of an exception, but like usually with people, I think like I can, if it's like a continued thing and I don't like absolutely have to be around that person for some reason, like if I don't like work with them or something like that, then I eventually just kind of cut ties. Because I'm like, if there's not a level of mutual respect, I'm just gonna separate myself from the situation.
Right. So this seems even a little different from a lot of the responses you've had.
Which I think is where a lot of the uncertainty is coming from.
And so normally your response, even though they're not kind of the same situations, normally your response, if they are having kind of like a negative reaction to it, is to just kind of separate yourself from
Well, I think not necessarily like if they have a negative, because I think, I mean, this is just my own opinion as a therapist, but I feel like even if people don't take criticism very well, I think it can sometimes take time to process, and as long as they're not being like, it even might cause an argument, but then it's like kind of a thing of like they process it more so on their own time because they don't feel so confrontational. But I think it's more, it has to do with their actions if I sever the ties. Like if it's it's not like a one-time kind of thing. It's like if it's a continued thing, and I've tried being like approachable about it, and I've tried approaching them about it, and I've tried working it out and doing what I need to do. They're just not like, whether they say they care or not like that. If it's a thing of like they're not actually putting in the effort, at least, like not necessarily that they have to be perfect, but like at least trying to put in the effort to change in a way that like I need them to, like, if it is even severely affecting me, because like it hasn't pretty severely affected me in the first place, but if it's a thing of like I don't see the effort at all, I will eventually sever ties, because I'll know that I like need to eventually for my own health.
Right. Is that maybe how you're starting to feel toward this person here too?
And then yeah, yeah. I do kind of feel that way. Again, I'm not sure if that uncertainty is like if it's coming out of me, or if it really is like something that like somebody else would be kind of uncertain about just because of the way he is. And I would hate to end up putting something out on him like that he can't really necessarily control,
Right.
but that he is putting the effort into. If he is putting the effort into it, good idea.
So that tension that's still kind of keeping you here with that person is this uncertainty that we kind of
I feel like
keep
that
coming back
is a good bit of it. I also feel like, yeah, after talking with you, I did also kind of realize like just not having a really good support system here has kind of made it a little bit more difficult for me to like leave, because I feel like if I didn't like have like a good support system of friends or other romantic options, like I feel like I might have put up with it for not as long.
I see. Yeah, so I know we talked about this a little bit before, but I am curious again if this sort of support system is kind of providing you with what you think you would.
Yeah, I do think to some extent it is. I know I haven't brought in like a ton of other stuff like in here or anything like that, but I mean I do feel like it is helping, but again it is different than having like really close friends, like that I can like call up when I need them, or that like back and forth,
Definitely. Yeah. It's not perfectly what you're looking for in a support network. That makes sense. No. I mean, yeah, no, it seems to me like there's definitely a purpose for all kinds of support, and I would hope that there's something that you would get out of this kind of environment that you might not get from like a friendship. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, I did want to talk about just to go back a little bit. I think this kind of recurring idea of like uncertainty um, toward your partner's like own internal process is kind of being a big returning theme, and I'm just kind of curious. I know last time we kind of talked about leaning towards thinking that he was maybe just not hearing you out, and I'm wondering if that sort of changed at all, or
I mean, just 'cause nothing like I don't know. I feel like maybe I would like know a little bit better if something else like more like serious happened, just because like it's not it's been like a normal week, you know, work, school, coming back home and like spending some time together and stuff like that. But it hasn't either been like some really, really good bonding thing or some really, really bad thing that like I could kind of figure out like maybe a little bit more over it. Because I mean I know he says that he like he says that he like cares about me, but it's also like I've never been that person that like is really like I just buy into what people say just because people say things that they don't mean a lot.
Okay. Yeah, so
And even if it's not like a really conscious thing for him, like he doesn't care about me. It's just like maybe he doesn't really know the difference between like what like I guess like an affinity for somebody versus like what I guess like love and compassion really is.
sure. Um, and I know last time we kind of made a good case for what does it look like if this person just isn't hearing you out. So I'm curious what pulls you to this other direction that maybe he just can't have this experience.
I feel like it's like oh gosh. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. But I feel like it's I don't know how to explain it exactly. It's kind of like when you're there with him, like I've always genuinely been pretty good at like reading people and reading people like what they mean with their actions, like and how they hold themselves and like the way they talk to other people and everything like that. And I just feel like I can't really read him. Which is not something particularly new, but
Sure.
I don't know, he's just like how do you explain this? It's like one of those people that just like you can't read his emotions at any given point. And I don't know if it's like an absence of emotions or if it's just something that like you just can't like he just doesn't show them.
Right. So there's a little bit more uncertainty there about whether that's realistically what he's experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, like last time, we kind of explored, what would that look like moving forward for you if he just isn't really hearing you out or anything. So I'm curious what that's going to look like if, let's say he just can't experience those kinds of emotions. What would that look like for you moving on?
I mean, I feel like I would have to leave, like, if it is something that, like he just, like, isn't putting in the effort, and I'm just not seeing that, like, if it's, like, and I don't know if, like, somebody on, like, the outside, like, if one of my friends is, like, fucking watching this and just not saying anything, and she's like, what the fuck is this dumb bitch doing? Why is she putting up with this shit? And then I'm just, like, way over, like, just like interpreting everything the wrong way or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Like I felt like if I did come to a realization that like it is an effort-based thing and like he's just not caring and that there really isn't like going to be a change that I would eventually have to leave. And it's not necessarily like I'm expecting to like marry this guy. Like I'm not in a position anytime soon to be like married or having that like expecting that like lifelong relationship kind of thing at all. So I mean I'm gonna leave eventually anyway, more than likely, or he's gonna leave or something's gonna happen and we're just gonna mutually split up or whatever. But for the time being it's also like kind of weighing out like, well, how much more time am I gonna invest in this? Am I getting enough out of it and other aspects of it to continue versus not? And I feel like effort is a big thing for me, valuing effort over ability, I guess.
Okay, so there is some motivation for staying with your partner if he is like this just is an ability issue where he's just not able to do this, and it almost sounds like maybe it's out of like It seems to me like it's maybe almost out of like a pity, perhaps, that like
Damn.
that he can't. I'm curious if that resonates with you at all.
Um, yeah, I don't really know. If it's necessarily like pity, because I feel at least there are some connotations with that I don't necessarily.
That's maybe a strong word.
But I wish it's an incorrect word, but I just feel like there's some connotations with it that like, at least for me, don't fully fit together with it.
Okay.
I feel like it's a little bit more complex than just being like, oh, I feel bad for him. Like, I don't want to hurt him further, or I don't want to like leave him stranded because I feel bad for him, kind of thing. Like that, like overarching thing. Because like I do get, so it's not like I get nothing out of it or anything like that. It's not like I pity him in like other ways. Like I know that like if I left, he'd be fine. Like he survived. Like he's not unstable to the point where like I feel like me leaving would just like destroy his entire life or anything like that. Like he's got good paying job. He's going to college. Like he'll be fucking fine. Like so it's not like that, but I also feel like within myself a little bit more. I guess like I don't know, like there's not like a huge thing that's making me leave, but there's not really like a huge thing that's making me stay either. And the little bit that is kind of making me think about changing, just I'm not sure how much, like from what I value as a human being, like which way it's tipping me at all yet.
I'm wondering if you're getting a sense of like I'm hearing maybe a little bit of guilt if you were to leave this person, if it is true that this isn't part of his experience. Does that seem true for you?
Yeah, I feel like I would feel kind of shitty about that. Just because I don't know, like I feel like I can work around it to a certain extent. Like if he is really putting in the effort and like for whatever reason I'm not like just able to see it for whatever reason that may be, that I don't wanna like know how to explain it. I don't necessarily wanna like I don't know how to phrase it, but I don't know, just like making that switch like with again like with my own values like about like valuing effort over ability because I feel like if you are putting in like in anything that you do like you are putting in like your pretty much your best effort for it and like there maybe isn't that like immediate switch from one thing to the next that other people shouldn't just innately like give up on you completely like automatically. It's a thing of like it's kind of like time, but then if you're trying, like if you want to change but you're not putting in any effort at all, then that's just waste. Like I just see it as a waste.
Okay. Right. So there is this. There would be then this like conflict of I'm not getting everything that I can out of this relationship, and at the same time, I'd feel sort of like guilty that I'm like abandoning this person too.
Yeah.
If it is something that's out of their control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems. I definitely get the sense of the like the difficulty of that situation. Is that like, kind of hearing yourself work through that. Does that bring anything up for you? Just the sense of that like that tension of those.
It's kind of like what I mentioned before. I'm just like, it's just kind of like bring up thoughts more along the lines of like, how the fuck do other people interpret this situation? Like, how would other people have handled it? And I'm not saying it's necessarily better or worse in any way, shape, or form, but like, I don't know. I feel like with my friends, like, and how they like you know, they like, I don't like, like shit on their boyfriends, or like if there's something going on at like work or that they don't like or fucking whatever, that you're just like, at one point or another, you just like dump his ass, like leave him, like, and it's kind of that push for them to do that or something like that, like where there is like a pretty simple, you know, solution, and that may be leave, or that may be take time for yourself, or that may be like you need to like make a switch to doing something else or something like that that's like a little bit more immediate. And I'm like, does somebody else look at this and just be like, fucking dumb bitch. Jesus, like, fucking leave.
It sounds to me like you kind of want to push from the outside to.
I feel like I do. Yeah, but I also just like, or if somebody else would be in that situation and just be like, no, that makes sense. Like, you know, don't be an asshole about it.
Sure. So it
Just
sounds
make me
like
think about this stuff more.
yeah, and I also get the sense that like there's this desire for like a like it's not just that extra push, but like a validation from like an outside source to say like, yeah, this person seems to be like
Well, not bad,
one
but
way or
like,
another.
I don't want, because I don't want to make him sound like he's like some asshole or something
Sure.
like that.
But yeah, there's this need for like to kind of clear up some of that uncertainty towards what his kind of inner states
Yeah,
are.
and I feel like this would be so much easier if I could just like read minds or whatever, but no.
Yeah. So, and I'm curious, is that something that you feel like you could get out of this environment? Like,
I don't know, maybe.
okay. Yeah.
I'm not saying that like you have to solve all my problems in like
Yeah.
a day, but yeah,
But-
maybe.
Sure. So kind of having gone and like, wade through some of these options of like what his inner motivations could be, like what's that sort of brought up for you, especially like just kind of weighing between those two.
I mean, it's kind of just like again, it just kind of affects my like values and my morals, because like it's not like we like have kids together or like are married or like even like live together or anything like that. So it's not like there's anything physical that's like dragging me to like stay with this person or anything like that. Like I could just like kind of, honestly, with no effect, but like no physical like reality effect on my life in any negative way if I did leave.
That seems confusing. There's nothing material that's kind of holding you to this. So I'm curious what is that other part that's kind of that's keeping you here.
I feel like it is the fact that I still care about him. Like even though I do like sometimes harbor some resentment, like it's not like a thing like I don't love and care for him. And it's been such a long time. Like if I didn't have him, because I'm like definitely that person that like I need like touch validation, like hugging and like cuddling and being close to somebody. It's like where the hell am I gonna get that otherwise? Especially because I don't like people. And I mean, maybe with like my friends back home, like where that's closer with, like I could get some more of that than I can from like my friends here, like just like in a platonic way.
It seems like there's maybe a fear of like some scarcity there. Like if I can't get this from this person, where am I gonna be able to find that?
So like I kind of hate that I'm saying this, but like I feel like if there was like another like option like readily available, maybe I would have been pushed to leave a little bit sooner. But I think that's most everybody.
Yeah, you say you hate that thought.
Yeah, I feel bad, but like, because I feel like that's almost like going over into like cheating territory or something like that, which I wouldn't do. I have too much like respect for other people to ever like not break, like just completely sever it before going after somebody else, kind of thing. Like I just don't feel like.
Okay.
I think we did it with the screen off.